we're here with Kathy Eichenberger, who's the Executive Director of the Columbia River Treaty. They're here in Valemount today, and welcome to Valemount.
Thank you very much. It's a glorious day. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. So can you tell us, what are you doing here?
Well, we're starting a second series of community consultations on the Columbia River Treaty. We were here in 2012 and 2013 to see whether the residents of the communities impacted by the treaty would have some advice and recommendations to government on whether to continue the treaty, to terminate it, or to make changes to it. And in 2014, the government, listening to the communities and to First Nations, has decided to continue the treaty, but to seek improvements. And this time around, we're coming to the communities to ask for input on what kind of improvements they would like to see. But also, what's very important is that when the first treaty was developed in the early 1960s, communities and people were not consulted. They did not have a say on the development of the treaty. This time, we want to make sure that they're informed of developments as negotiations are underway, which they started with the United States at the end of May last month.
Right, great. And so how long a process is this likely to be?
It's very difficult to say. Likely more than a year, maybe a couple of years. It depends on how well the negotiations are going with the United States. So I wouldn't hazard a guess, but it's going to take some time.
Let me just back up a little bit for those people who may not be familiar with the Columbia River Treaty. Can you kind of give a brief overview?
Certainly. So in 1961, Canada-US signed an agreement whereby Canada built 3 dams, Mica, Keenly Side, and Duncan, and created 15.5 million acre feet of storage to help prevent flooding downstream, including all the way to Portland, but also help generate additional power in the U.S. And in return, we receive payment for flood control, but also we receive electricity that we sell on the market for the additional electricity that our flow management produces in the U.S. The U.S. also had the ability, and they did, construct Libby Dam in the southeast corner and flooded 67 kilometers into Canada.
Wow. So what are likely to be some of the major negotiating points in this round?
Well, obviously we want to renegotiate or improve flood control, which expires actually in 2024. The U.S. is quite concerned about that. They made a prepayment when the treaty was first signed, and that comes to an end in 2024. The power generation is an issue. We're looking at different ways to value that, but also this time we want to consider ecosystems. That was not a priority in the treaty, and now, of course, in this day and age, it is very important to not only residents and First Nations, but to everyone in the province, and so that'll be front and center. We also want to make sure that we have a fair share, an equitable share of all of the benefits from the treaty that the U.S. citizens and governments enjoy, and so we'd like to expand that discussion a little bit.
So tonight is a information gathering session, more specific information about what people would like to see involved in the talks. How many of these are you doing across the province?
For this current round, 9 in 2 weeks, and we will be coming back as information occurs during the negotiations and as we have to make choices going down the road before we reach an agreement. So this is the 6th community meeting, and we have till the end of the week to complete this round, but we'll be back. And we want to make absolutely sure that the citizens and communities know what's going on and are kept in the loop during negotiations. So it's very different than last time.
And how has the participation been in the session?
It's been good. It's been, people are very, very engaged. They listen to the updates, but then we get them to work on what are some of the key issues that they would like us to bring to the negotiating table, and what does going at a deeper level and what that looks like as far as solutions or changes or improvements. And we've been receiving wonderful input, confirming what we heard last time we were here, but also getting new input and more specific recommendations.
Great. For those who weren't able to make it tonight, is there a feedback process for them?
There is. First of all, we have videotaped the session in Castlegar, and that will be on our website. We have ways of providing input through Twitter, Facebook. We have a web page, and we have the web address that's available here that we'll post, and people can reach us by phone, by fax, by mail. We really encourage broad participation.
Anything I haven't asked you that you'd like to cover?
Yes, one thing that we are always striving for is to encourage more young people to come. That's been a challenge for us, and so, all the young people out there, please give us advice on what you would like to see that would draw you in and provide input, because young people are going to be living with the treaty in decades to come when the rest of us may not be around.
Right, it's their future.
That's right.
Well, thank you for coming and listening to our viewpoints, and I hope the session goes well.
Thank you very much.